Today we've got a really awesome weather display for you guys. Raspberry Pi Zero multicolor e-ink paper display. Updates online from Open Weather Data. Howdy everybody, Steve here, KM9G. Check her out. Let's do this.
If you are new here, sometimes when I do really highly detailed technical videos, some people will tell me that I talk too fast in them. You are in control of how fast I talk. Somewhere along the edge of the video, there is a little gear icon where you can tell YouTube to slow me down. I personally like to speed it up to 2x, but you can take it down to 0.75 and it'll do some pitch correction so I don't sound too crazy. But really, this is more to watch and see some of the pitfalls and some of the troubles and some of the tips and tricks, and there are written instructions below the video for you to follow along with step by step when you get to your computer. This is really just so you can see like where things get stuck, where things go crazy, come back and take a look when something doesn't work the way you think it should. We got this.
My desk is a little messy, but I've got a new project that I just got to get started on anyway. We've got a Raspberry Pi Zero 2W, and we've got a heatsink for the Zero, and in this big box, this is something I've wanted to play with for a while. This is an e-paper display. It's so light, I feel like it's not even in there. Wow. Check that out. That's a 7.3-inch e-ink display. Awesome. Now I got to figure out how all this stuff works. Let's do the easy stuff first. Let's get out the Raspberry Pi Zero, which is supposed to be in here. And would you look at that? It is. If you're going to get a Raspberry Pi Zero, I recommend the Zero 2W, simply because it's got 4 cores over the regular Raspberry Pi Zero only having 1 core. And I think, I need to check this out real quick, but I think, wow, I got a wrench. Wow. I think it's actually faster than a Pi 3. Yeah, it's a lot faster than a Pi 3. Wow. I mean, I thought it was, but it is a lot faster. Here's the benchmark specs showing how much faster it is. The heatsink kit comes with a whole bunch of extra screws and whatnot to screw the heatsink down, but I also need to double check the clearance. Look at this. Who would have thought I'd get a tire iron with a Raspberry Pi kit? I need to check the clearance between the heatsink and the display hat. Well, that's interesting. This just appears to be an extension. And then this has got the GPIO headers on, so it only goes on one way. That makes sense. There we go. That's all sandwiched on. So I wonder if I could just do that. These connectors for these ribbon cables lift up, and then the ribbon cable slides out. So we'll put that cable back in there. And I don't remember if it was upside down or not, but that seems logical to put it in that way. I do like these zero insertion force connectors though, because it makes it easy to get it right. Anyway, what I was checking on was, is this heatsink going to fit without causing any interference? And it looks to me like there's plenty of room in there. So let's get her all screwed down the way we're supposed to. So that goes on there like so. Even thinner than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, there's no way that's going to interfere. But we had to make sure. We've got a pad for that chip. We've got a pad for that chip, and we've got an extra pad in case we screw up, because there ain't any more chips. That's an SD card reader. I mean, you can put it on there. And then one of these is, the pink pad is thicker than the blue pad. Yeah, that might cause some problems. We'll put these little mini standoffs in the standoff hole. See, this is where this really weird tool comes in, but I think it's still awkward to use that. Well, it works. Okay. Just got to get her started. Oh, no. I dropped it on the floor. Can't drop it on the floor. Good thing I don't have carpet. Be gone forever. They do give you some extras, it looks like. You got one extra standoff and one extra nut just in case I drop one on the floor like I did. That's what I like about Waveshare. They're always thinking about you. Now I need to make sure that I have the right clearance to also attach the e-paper hat. And that one only comes with 2 standoffs. So I'm going to take these screws that are included and I'm going to screw down the back side of the standoff. Then I'm going to use the leftover standoff to go in between the hat and the Pi. There's still a little bit of a gap, but not bad. I really prefer that it just doesn't move, more so than I prefer absolute perfection on standoff geometry. Otherwise, I'd get out my own standoffs and make it happen. Yep, that's the wrong size screw for that. Will this one here work? All right, excellent. That's as good as that is going to get.
Hams love weather. It's what we talk about when we're on the air because, it's not politics or religion. I think we probably should talk about those things more to be more more friendly with each other and less at each other's throats. But that's beside the point. This is about making a weather station, a weather display, and check this thing out.
E-Ink weather dashboard powered by a Raspberry Pi.
It's an E-Ink weather dashboard powered by a Raspberry Pi. You know I love Raspberry Pi projects. And I like a challenge too. And that's what this thing has become, is kind of a challenge. The day that I set out to make this thing, the website here shows you how beautiful it is, and it shows you how we got through the process, and then go figure it out by reading the documentation. So I did that for you. I'm going to give you a little tutorial about how this thing goes together, and I'll tell you about some of the little gotchas that I had along the way. So first, you're going to need a Raspberry Pi. This works fine on a Raspberry Pi 02W. I wouldn't get anything less than a 02W if you're buying one today. It'll also work on a 3 or a 4 or a 5, but those are kind of overkill. Raspberry Pi 02W is the one to get, and I've got it linked for you in the description down below. You also need an e-ink paper display. I got mine from Waveshare. They sent it in and asked me to make this video tutorial on how to do this thing for you. So there is a link for that in the description down below as well. You guys saw it in the opening. It looks fantastic. It's beautiful. Let's get started. I'm going to leave links for all this stuff in the description down below. I'm also going to leave all of the commands. So sit back, watch through the thing, and then I've got some documentation for you all in the description down below, ready to roll, no problems. You're going to need to get the Raspberry Pi operating system on your SD card. This is the Raspberry Pi Imager, and this is my SD card. If you have an SD card already in a device that you've been using for a while, use that, get a new one for that if you don't have a spare. I've got tons of spares. I have a little SD card holder here that even holds the big SD card thing in there to adapt all the little SD cards. I'll leave a link for this down below for you too, because this thing is pretty handy. I've been using it for years. It's fantastic. So it's a 64 gig card. You don't even need a 2 gig card in order to make this work, I don't think. But I don't know of anybody that still has a 2 gig card. So I'll put that in the computer. And then this Raspberry Pi Imager software, you can get it for macOS, you can get it for Windows, you can get it for Debian or Ubuntu, and you can actually run it on the Raspberry Pi itself if you were that kind of person that does all day, all Pi, all day. Not me. Close, but not me. This is the Raspberry Pi Imager software. Once you get it installed, you guys have probably installed Windows software before or Mac software before, so I'm not going to go through that part. But this part here is where it gets a little interesting. The first button here is Choose Device. I'm using that Raspberry Pi 02W. Choose Operating System. You want to pick Other because you don't need the full-sized, full-weight, heavy operating system. What you need is this Raspberry Pi OS Lite 64-bit. I'm going to pick that. It's already cached on my computer because I did this a couple of times, so I knew what I was talking about when I reached out and made this video for y'all. And then, operating system, Raspberry Pi OS Lite 4. We got that squared away. And then we need to choose storage. So I'm going to choose my storage. Remember I told you it was a 64 gig card. There's something here that's really close to 64 gigs. I know that to be true. Down here it says at the bottom, exclude system drives. I know I'm not going to overwrite my hard disk. This is the second reason why I love this. The first is that it gives me the operating system downloads. I don't have to go do it on my own. The second is that it protects me from overwriting my hard drive. And then I'll show you the third. When I click next right here, there are some settings in here. I'm going to go ahead and edit these and show you what they are. This is where the magic of this tool comes in. I can give this machine a name. I'm calling it WX Paper, Weather Paper, because of paper display. I like to name things extremely complicated when they show up on my network in a node list. I'll have no idea what this means, right? Username and password, the Pi is fine. Set your password here so that it's something that you know so you can log in. I happen to log in with SSH keys. Configure your wireless network. You can actually type in your wireless password and your wireless network name here, and then the machine will boot up and will automatically be on your Wi-Fi network, which is perfect. One less thing I need to do. Set your wireless LAN country, tell it where you're located, do everything in Central Time, so I keep my machines in Central Time. You can do it in UTC if you'd like. And then under services, enable SSH so we can log in. You definitely need to do this. Like I said, I have a public key here. If you would like to slow this video down and copy each one of these individual little letters as they scroll by at 1,000 miles an hour, go for it. That will give me access to your machine. This is not my password. This is the public key version I store my password locally. If you wanted to do this, you could add an SSH key by picking it off the hard disk, or you can run SSH keygen to create your own key. Subject for another video, kind of an advanced thing, but there it is. And then options, turn these on or off as you see fit. I leave eject when finished. macOS can't read ext4 file systems anyway, so it's no big deal. I mean, it can, but it's a pain in the butt. Again, topic for a different video. So I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to say, yes, I'd like to apply those. And then I'm going to say that I'd like to erase the disk. And it's going to ask me for my password. And we're writing over the disk. Once that is fully finished writing out to the disk, take the little SD card and put it inside of your Raspberry Pi and turn it on. It's going to take a couple of minutes when it first comes on to resize the file system to use up the full 64 gigs on the card, or 32 or 8 or whatever it is that you chose. Then it's going to reboot one more time, and it's going to join your wireless network, and it's going to have a machine name of WX-Paper, or whatever you decided creatively to call your machine. So now I'm waiting for this thing to reboot. When you first turn the device on, the display is going to stay blank. This is a SPI connected, so it's kind of a serial device connected display, not a console terminal screen display. So don't be alarmed if the display doesn't do anything. One thing you do have to check that got me was that the ribbon cables were flipped upside down. So it didn't work at all for a while until I got them flipped right side up. And the ping is returning, so it's time to log in. If it's your first login to the machine, then it's going to ask you if it should do the thing or not. And what that thing is, hey, I don't know who this person is. Do you trust them? Well, of course I trust it. I just made it. So yes, I'd like to do that. So yes. And then one of the things that we should do anytime we install a brand new machine, or also periodically throughout the machine's life, like once a month or so, is we should update the machine with all the latest security patches and so on. So I'm going to do sudo, I'm going to spell it properly, apt update. And that's very quickly going to go out and grab the database of all of the packages and get all their version numbers and all their relationships and all kinds of stuff and figure it all out. Now that we have that installed, I do need a couple of packages in order to get this to run, just to make my life happy. So sudo apt install. We need git in order to download the code later. Git is a source code control program, source code management program that does version tracking and all kinds of stuff for developers, so you can tell when you've got the older version or the newer version of something. I also install my favorite text editor, and I install a better package manager than apt. And then -y means, yes, go ahead and do this thing that I'm asking you to do. Answer yes to all questions. So Nala, the regular apt package manager is nice. apt-get is nice. Apt is better. Nala is better than that. apt-get, apt, and Nala all do collectively together is they go out, they look at the package repository, they figure out all the dependencies, they download all the dependencies, they install them all in the right order so that there's nothing broken or any problems along those lines, and then give you back your command prompt. What Nala does differently, though, is it will do parallel processing. So it'll download up to three mirrors at one time. It will also use the fastest mirror in order to do that. And it's got a really pretty interface that I'll show you here in a little bit. So this here is the apt interface, which is already better than the apt-get interface. And we're going to go one level higher. So now we're going to use Nala to do the upgrade instead of using apt. See, look at that. Prettier already. When you get to this spot here, it's going to ask you this question about what to do with your init ramfs config. And it says it's modified, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to do? The type of machine that this is, it kind of doesn't really matter what you do. I'm just going to say no. I recommend you say no. It works just fine if you say no, so just press enter to say no. And it goes right about installing the rest of the stuff. All right, and she is all finished. And what we see here is that we got a new RAM disk created, which usually happens when a new kernel gets installed, which usually means you should reboot. So I'm going to go ahead and do the reboot right now. Not every time you do Linux updates do you need to reboot, but in this case, things have changed at the very base level of the operating system, so I want to go ahead and reboot. So from the command line, you just type reboot. And you got to put sudo in front of it because you're not able to do that. If you're at the console, you can do it like physically in front of the machine, but the machine's behind me. And she's rebooting. And then I'm just going to run a ping forever until it starts responding again, and then I'll know the machine's back up and running, and we'll be back. And we're back. So let's log into the machine again, and then we're going to run some commands on it. This is the GitHub repository for the InkyPy display, which is the heart of the project that we're working on. And this is by Fatihak. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not gonna mess it up do any disservice there. And if you want some more information on the documentation, there is a ton of stuff here. And if you also have any issues whatsoever, the best place to get any information on resolving any issues is to click this issues link right here. At the top, you'll see there's a classification of whether this is an issue or this is something else, or whether this is open or closed or whatever the case may be. So what you can do is you can say, like whether not displaying, I don't know, something that's germane to what you're trying to solve as a problem. And then when you search for it, you'll see that other people have this similar problem and need some help. And if you don't get any results, then you can remove this state equals open thing and search for it again. And you'll get a whole bunch of other ones where there might have already been a solution and the documentation is there for what the solution is. But this is the place to go to get the software, get as in GET, as opposed to GIT, which is the website here. Let's get back to our terminal. We'll get you the next command, which is git clone. We're going to make a copy of that repo that I just showed you on the web browser onto the local machine. And it's going to set it up in a little folder, and we're already inside of the user Pi's home folder, which is where I want this to be. And then once that's done, we need to change into that folder. CD is change directory. Folders are called directories. And then we're inside of that folder, and we need to run the installer. And what we're going to do is we're going to run sudo to act as root when we do the install, because we need to write inside of privileged folders. We're going to run the command bash, which is the born again shell, which is a command interpreter. We're going to tell it which commands to run by passing it a list of commands in this install.sh file. Install being the name of the command file and .sh being shell script. And then we need to do -w for Waveshare because that's the type of display we're using, and then the display driver. For the display that I've got linked in the description below, this is the driver that you need. It's going to do all the things for you. It's going to take some time. We're going to sit back and relax and watch it with some pretty elevator music. All right, and we've come to the end of the install. You're going to see some yellow text on here. This last one here says deprecation. It sounds like a very big, mean word. All it means is that sometime in the future, this part is going to go away. Not a problem for you to worry about. That's a problem for the developer to worry about, and they will get it fixed because the project is fairly active, and I'm pretty excited about that. This one here says that there is a connection aborted message, and the remote end closed the connection without a response. And it's going to retry a couple of times. It said it was going to retry 4 times, and I didn't see retry 3, retry 2, retry 1, give up with horrible consequences and die. What I saw was we're going to retry 4 times, and then I saw everything move on forward. So we're looking really good in the install. Yellow is a warning, red is a like danger Will Robinson kind of thing. So we're at the bottom of the install. Would you like to restart your Raspberry Pi now? Yes or no? So say yes. And then it's going to reboot, and we're going to be right back. Next thing we need to do is we need to create an open weather account in order to get an API key. It is going to ask you for your credit card. However, it's free. That's just in case you happen to use way too many. We'll set up controls so that you don't use way too many and they don't start charging you. But the fees themselves are actually really straightforward. So when you get to this website, go through the sign up process, create yourself an account. There's no charge to create an account, but we need to do a little bit more. So if you come up in here, there is this My API Keys section, and I'm going to show you some of my API keys, and then I'm going to reset these. So don't even try to steal them because they'll be gone by the time you review this video. You can generate a API key by name. I had one I called InkyWeather, one I called InkyWeather2 because that's the name of the project is the InkyPy, and this is the weather and blah, blah, blah. You know, like I said, I like to be really complex about how I name things. You can see that there's the default and there's the InkyWeather and the InkyWeather2. I wound up going with the default. What was happening was there was a little bit of an issue. I had to check the API by making a manual call, but it didn't say anywhere in the documentation, or if it did, I completely missed it. But it was a situation where the key hadn't been provisioned yet, even though I had the key and it looked like everything was good. The software, the InkyPy software didn't complain at all. I had to go and do that manual API call, which then told me to go check some website, which then told me, anyway, it's going to take a while. Also, on top of that, you have to go into your email, and inside of your email, there is a verify your email, validate your email link. So make sure you click that to validate your email, because that probably has something to do with how long it takes to get you through the approval process for the API key. Once that is all done, then we can go in and we can create the API account. If you dig deep inside of the documentation, you'll find this API keys document, and inside of the API keys document, it will tell you the weather plugin uses the OneCall API 3.0, which requires a subscription but is free for up to 1,000 requests per day. Subscribe at OneCall API 3.0 subscription. Click on that. It's going to take you over here to fill out your subscription. Do individual, go through all of this thing here, hit continue on to payment, fill out your payment information. I'm not going to share my credit card information with you. Sorry. And you can see here is the details. First 1,000 API calls are free per day. Each additional call costs $0.0015 US dollars above 1,000. We're not going to go above 1,000. I'm going to set mine to run every 15 minutes or so. So 24 times 60 is 1,500. 1,500 divided the number of minutes in a day. 24 hours times 60 minutes. 1,500 minutes in a day. 1,500 divided by 15 is 100 calls per day. We're only going to make 100 calls per day. It's fine. And then I will show you how to edit that thing and make it stick. We want to come over to our subscription page, and it says calls per day, no more than, and here it says 2,000. I'm going to edit that to say no more than 1,000. 1,000 calls per day are what is included free in the free plan. First 1,000 API calls per day are free. Each additional call is $0.0015 US dollars. So less than a penny per each additional call after your first 1,000. But first 1,000 calls are free, and I've got it limited to no more than 1,000. So this is going to be free forever. And now we're ready to go in and start configuring the weather display. This thing actually does quite a lot of things. If you want to have it do more than display just weather, if you want to have it show some random images, you can do that. You can have an OpenAI image generated, and you can use a different AI model, imaging model, and give it a text prompt and set it on a schedule. You can even tell it to randomize the text prompt, and it'll just make random crazy images and put them on your screen. You can have it do some AI text and give it a prompt, and it will give you an answer. You can have it show you the NASA astronomy picture of the day. Go back and look at that API page that I just showed you. I'll link it in the description down below for you. Have fun. Play with this stuff. That's what all this stuff is about. You can have it display a calendar. You can have it grab a calendar URL. You can have it display a clock in a couple of different formats. You can have it display a webcomic daily. I like XKCD. Let's see. I can have it display a path of folders and just randomize through the folder and have it fit to the frame, so you can do like pictures of your family or your dog or whatever the case may be. You can have it go through images that you have uploaded, and you can upload them right here in the form. You can have it show you the news, but you don't want to see the news anyway. It's a very horrible thing to see. Screenshot, do not run this with untrusted URLs. Yes, you can give it a URL. It'll take a screenshot of that URL and put it back on there. So if you wanted to do like the solar weather thing, you could type that in there and put it in rotation. That's pretty cool. Unsplash, search for an image on Unsplash. A random image will be fetched if you don't give it a search query. And then you can avoid nudity and violence, or you can tell it no filtering if you're into extra spicy content. And then you can get into weather. Weather requires an API key. We just got that. Before we get too much farther into it though, I'm going to show you how to do the weather API key. So we're back at our friendly command prompt, and I've got to get back onto that machine. So I'm going to up arrow to get to SSH pi at WX-Paper. If you are using Mac OS, I'm using iTerm. iTerm's a fantastic program. There's also the built-in terminal, which is kind of okay. If you are on Windows, you can use PuTTY, P-U-T-T-Y, TTY for teletype, which retro computer stuff used to be called teletype. And you know, if you're into RTTY, then you're already familiar with what teletype is. And if you're on Linux, then you already know all of this stuff, and why are you watching this video? All right, so we're logged into the machine, and we need to go into the folder where we did the install, which is called InkyPy. So CD, change directory, into the InkyPy folder. And in here, I'm going to use my favorite text editor. I'm going to edit a file called env. And all I need to put in here is the actual API key that we generated before, and something to say what that API key is, which looks like that. Open weather map secret equals, and then your API key that you got off of the website that we just went through. Save this. It doesn't tell you anywhere that you need to restart this, but I'm going to go ahead and be a good sysadmin, and I'm going to restart it. So sudo to act as root, act as super user, and then system control, and then restart, and then InkyPy is the name of the process. And while you're here, if you ever need to look at the logs, journal control -u InkyPy -f, and this will show you all of the stuff that's going on as this process boots up and all of the logs that come from this process if you ever need to look at the logs for troubleshooting purposes. And right now you can see that it's done a bunch of stuff, and it was initializing the display, and then it loaded the driver, and then it started the refresh task, and then it started up the web server. And so now we've got a web server running. So if we go back over here to our page, you can see that we have a working web server. I can go back, I can go forward. I'm going to select my location, and it gives me this little teeny tiny map, but I still kind of have an idea roughly of what geography looks like. And I am in Benson, Arizona right now, so I need to scroll to where Benson, Arizona is. And all I'm doing is rolling my mouse wheel around, and I am at the Safeway in Benson, Arizona, which is right off of the I-10 business, which is right off of the I-10 interstate. So I'm going to hit save, and now it's got my GPS coordinates. Weather provider is Open Weather Map, or you can pick the other one. I don't know about the other one. I never used it. Of course, we use imperial measurements. It's by imperial degree that we have to use imperial measurements. I'm going to put up a custom message that says home sweet home. And then I'm going to display the refresh time. This will tell me the last time the screen was updated, which kind of is important to me because I don't want to be looking at stale weather data. And then it's going to tell me some metrics. It's going to show me a weather graph. I'm going to be interested in the rain amount, the moon phase, a 7-day forecast, and then the time zone. You can use your location time zone, or you can specify a time zone. I'm not sure where it's getting its location from, so I'm going to say nothing. I'm going to leave it just the way it is. You can also change the style here. It looks like you can upload an image, you can change the background color, you can change the text color, you can make some margins, you can put some frames around stuff. Have fun, experiment. It's what ham radio is all about. And the worst case scenario is you have to go back to the beginning of the tutorial video and start all over again. Not that big of a deal. So we are good to go with this. I'm going to say add to playlist. If you don't add this to a playlist, it's not going to actually do any kind of updating of the display, is what I have found. Maybe I got that wrong. I don't know. Add to playlist. I'm going to add it to the default playlist. I'm going to call it weather, again, because I name stuff. And I'm going to do it every 15 minutes, like I said. And then I'm going to hit save. And now we have a scheduled refresh configured. And then you can hit update now, and it will update right away when you click the button. There are a couple of settings up here. This first one is to edit your playlist. So this is the default playlist, which has the weather item in it. If you put the comics or the news, or any of the other stuff, the random images or your family photo album or whatever in here, you will see those as well with whatever you called them. You can create a new playlist. You can edit the playlist to tell it when you want it to. You can change its name. You can tell it when you want it to run from to. So this is going to run all day, every day. And I'm going to hit the X and forget about that because I don't want to make any of those changes to the playlist. I just wanted to show you the playlist. And we've got a gear icon up here, which usually means settings. You can download the logs, you can reboot, or you can shut down the machine from the web interface, which is nice because I'm going to run this thing without a keyboard or a mouse attached to it. And then I can shut it down from my phone or from my computer or whatever the case may be. Give it a device name. I can tell it what orientation I want it. I can tell it to invert the image. So I think this is going to be horizontal, and then invert would be flip it upside down depending on how you have it in the frame. Or you can also do vertical if you wanted a vertical frame, and it should be responsive and draw all of the images out really nice and pretty for you. You can pick a time zone. I'm going to pick PHO America Phoenix because I'm in Benson, Arizona. I like my time in 12-hour format. I'm weird, I know. You can tell me all about it in the comments down below. Plug-in cycle every 15 minute, do something. And then image settings, so you can change some of the image settings to your liking. I'm not going to change any of them. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to go back. And right here, if you brought this up in your web browser and you had a current image on the screen, we haven't gotten that far. This right here is actually the image that will be on the display that we've created. Pretty cool stuff. And she's refreshing the display. This is going to be the current weather conditions when it comes up. And this is the magic of e-ink. This is the way it looks when it does its tricks. So home sweet home, like it says. And you can see the viewing angle on this is really good. And then you can see up in the corner, the last time it was refreshed is today at 3:12. All the different features you have: sunrise, wind, 9 miles an hour as of the time of the reset, barometric pressure, visibility, sunset is at 6:14 p.m. tonight, humidity, UV index, air quality, and then the 7-day forecast. And I think that this
line in the background here is the accumulation of rain, and this looks like it is the sun, and the sun's blocked by the clouds because of the accumulation of rain. But all in all, that's a pretty slick looking display, isn't it? And I got this 5x7 photo frame from Walmart. And you can too.
Woo! That was a lot of fun getting that thing done. Took me about 2 days to do it. Got this all compressed down to under an hour worth of video for you guys, and some instructions down below for you. If you like what I'm doing here, click that like button. Apparently YouTube says that does something magical to the algorithm to tell the world that ham radio is awesome, and playing around with computers and things like that are also awesome. For the display and everything, I also have links down below for you for the Raspberry Pi and some of the other stuff that I did in the video. It takes a 5x7 photo frame, and then you need to make, I did not do it, you can see that if you go back in the video, you make a little matting out of some paper or something to hide the edges of the screen. And if you like watching somebody struggle with a Raspberry Pi, making a weather station out of it, because they're weatherproof somehow, then this is the channel for you. Hit the subscribe button as well, and I will see you in the next video right over here. Thanks for being awesome.